Are you new to fishing, or you've been fishing for a little while but haven't quite figured out how to choose just the right rod? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about rod basics. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. You know, I did a couple videos recently about reels. We talked about the various types of reels that are on the market, and then I also put a video out about ratio on reels. So the next thing I thought I would cover is the rod and how to select the rod and understand what the rod is intended to be used for. I've been in sporting goods stores and I've seen folks come in and buy a surf rod to go trout fishing, and that's certainly not the right rod to be fishing for trout. So I thought I'd just go over the basics. There are countless rod manufacturers. You have well-known rod manufacturers. You have small startup companies. They're tons, and there's tons of choices. Now, with that said, I'm not going to be talking about all of the different types of rods for all the different types of fishing. For instance, I fish downrigger rods when I'm fishing in the saltwater at my charter operation. That is a very specific rod for that type of fishing. I would not take this rod, which is a bait casting bass fishing rod. I would not use this for fishing downriggers. Okay, I would break the rod. Okay, but rods can be broken up into probably three classes, and let's talk about that for a second. So you'll have a level wind rod. Okay, and what that means is it's either a level wind reel, a round conventional reel, but that's where the reel sits on top of the rod as you're holding it. Okay, so that's one type of rod. All right, another type of rod is the spinning rod. Okay, now as I have the rod oriented in my hand, okay, the reel is positioned below the rod. A significant difference between the two rods is that spinning rods have eyes made for spinning reels. So they start closest to the reel, larger, and they increasingly get smaller as they go up to the tip of the rod. Now on a bait cast rod, it's somewhat similar. The first eye is a little bit larger, but not quite as large as on a spinning rod. Okay, now level wind rod, right? Bait cast. These are casted. They could be used where they just let line out and they troll. Some of them have line counters on them. You might have very large spools that they're offshore tuna fishing. So a level wind rod may come for a vast amount of type of fishing. Okay, same is to be said for the spinning rods. Again, you'll see these up to 11, 12 feet, and they may be using them for surf fishing. Okay, this rod is specific to bass fishing using the drop shot technique. All right, now I did have some questions about when I did the reel video. They said, hey, you didn't talk about any fly reels, and it's not because I don't fly fish. I do. I enjoy fly fishing. I don't guide folks for fly fishing, but I really do conventional fishing, and that's why I stuck with the conventional stuff. But this is a fly reel. Again, it is mounted on the bottom of a fly rod. Okay, and in this type of instance, you're fishing artificial flies, and you have a motion to get the fly onto the water and subsequently catch your fish. So just touched on that, but let's get into how do you know what rod to select for the type of fishing you're doing. Okay, so the first thing is, typically when you go into a sporting goods store, the rods are sorted by the type of fishing. So if you go into like the trout rods, they're going to be all in the same general area. If you go into the bass fishing rods are going to typically be all in the same general area. Same can be said for halibut rods and trolling rods and steelhead and salmon rods. They're typically going to be grouped. So you find your rod, the group of rods you're looking at. What do we need to be looking at? So I'm going to use my St. Croix Mojo Bass glass rod, and I want to talk about the information that's on the rod itself. A lot of folks don't realize that the information on here actually tells you what this rod's purpose is, okay? So the first thing I want to find is the model number. And this model number here says MGC72MM, okay? So what does that mean? Well, if you start reading model numbers enough, you're going to start figuring out what those rods are just based on the model number. So I'll just say this. The first letters, the first two, I'm not sure. The first letter or the third letter, which is a C, that means it's a casting rod, okay? If this was an MGS, it would be a spinning rod, okay? So MGC, so it's a casting rod. 7.2, it's a 7-foot, 2-inch rod, and it's a medium power, moderate action. That's what the MM stands for. And lo and behold, if I look just below the model number, it says 7'2", medium power, moderate action. And then it has an area below that that tells me what type of line the manufacturer suggests I fish on this rod. And this says 8 to 14 pound. So 8 to 14 pound is the line diameter that this rod was designed to fish. Doesn't mean you can't fish braided line, which probably has a much higher breaking strength, but you want to fish within the 8 to 14 pound diameter because based on the guides and the parabolic action of the rod, that's what they think will allow this rod to fish as they designed it to. Following the line weight, we're going to have some weight, and it says 1/4 to 3/4 ounce. Now, 1/4 to 3/4 ounce, that's talking about what are you fishing? Is it a lure, like this chatterbait I'm fishing here? Okay, or maybe you're fishing live bait, but you need weight to get your live bait down to a certain depth. You need to take that total weight of what's on the end of the line, and that is how this applies. So 1/4 to 3/4 ounce. Doesn't mean this rod can't handle more weight. It just means that for this rod to fish with the action they designed it to have, that's the suggested weight. Now, I will touch on one thing. A lot of rod manufacturers have a serial number on here. St. Croix is one of those manufacturers. So right at the base of the rod, they'll have a serial number. It's specific just to this rod. What that allows me to do is you go on to St. Croix's website and you're able to register the rod so it's under warranty and you're covered, right? So it's important to know where your serial number is and know what the model number is because they're going to want that information to register the rod. Now we'll take a look at the spinning reel or the spinning rod. Okay, so same thing. This is a St. Croix Mojo Bass. And this rod, I bought this rod specific to fish the technique drop shot for bass. Okay, so let's take a look at the model number. MJS610MLXF. So I'm going to skip the first two letters, but the S, it's a spinning rod, okay? 6'10", 6'10", MLXF, medium light, extra fast, okay? So if we go down below, it's all there. 6'10", medium light power, extra fast action, 6 to 10 pound diameter line, an 1/8 to 1/2 ounce in total weight at the end of the line. That will make this rod action correctly, okay? Now even fly rods have information like that. This information on this fly rod is pretty minimal. This is a 9-foot 5 weight, okay? On fly rods, they'll have the hashtag and a number, and that's the weight of the rod. It's a whole another fly fishing thing. So for more information, check out your fly fishing videos on YouTube. Okay, so now we're understanding a little bit more about what the information is on the rod and what the rod's purpose is, okay? Now knowing that is going to allow you to fish these rods a lot more efficiently, okay? Let's talk about how you check a rod when you go into a store. So I have seen this hundreds and hundreds of times. Somebody will take a rod off the shelf and they'll grab the tip of that rod and they'll do this. That is a no can do, you guys. That is a good way to buy a rod without having to actually intended to buy it. Because I've seen several times these tips snap. Fishing rods aren't designed to be held, you know, a third of the way down and bend this tip, okay? They're just not designed for that. They need the full action of the rod in order for it to work properly, okay? I would say that 99, well, let's say this. I would say I have never been into a tackle store that sold rods that didn't either have carpeting in the area that they sold the rods or at least carpet runners. The reason they have those carpet runners is so that you can hold the rod toward the floor with the butt in your hand and you can press down to check the action of the rod. You can see where that rod's loading, okay? And it will give you a sense of how the rod loads. What it won't give you is how sensitive the rod is, okay? That's a harder one to decipher. So let's talk about sensitivity for a second, because they don't tell you on the rod, just because it's extra fast doesn't mean it's more sensitive, okay? That's the rod action, okay? Really, sensitivity comes down to the amount you're spending for a rod. I'm just not gonna lie to you. If you go into the store and you find a combo and it's, you know, $89, you get a rod and a reel, is that rod gonna perform great for you? Yes. Are you gonna catch fish? Yes. Are you gonna catch all the really light biting fish? Probably not. You're paying for sensitivity when you buy your more expensive rods. You know, where do you start seeing that sensitivity? Depends on the rod brand. I've seen rods that start at $150 and are very sensitive. But then again, you put a rod in your hand and it's, you know, $300 to $500. Man, you really notice the difference in sensitivity. Okay. Now, do you have to have that? No. How serious are you about fishing? If you're the occasional angler, you don't need to have a $200 to $300 rod. Would it be nice? Sure. If you can afford it, get one. Another thing I'll say that your higher end rods have is lighter weight. Okay. The lighter you can get the rod, the more you can fish all day. And for guys that fish 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day, they are going to buy the most expensive rods because they want the lighter weight rods, they want the sensitivity because they're serious about fishing. Doesn't mean you can't catch fish on the lower priced rods. So, you know, that's some information on how to select a rod. Again, find the section in the store for the type of rod you want to fish. If you're stuck, ask one of the employees, you know, and they'll drive you in the right direction. They don't want to drive you wrong. They want you to be a happy customer and a returning customer. So, you know, most of the people that work in the fishing section of sporting goods stores, you know, they fish themselves and they're pretty knowledgeable, okay? Again, tons of different types of fishing for spinning rods and bait casting rods, tons of different types. So make sure that you're buying the rod for the right type of fishing that you intend on doing, okay? So if you like our videos, give us a thumbs up, hit that bell icon and you'll be notified when we publish new videos. Until next time, thanks for watching.